Hi, this is Andrew Wolf. This is the third in a series of videos on on an exemplar of an online course, and this particular course was Advanced Physiology and Pathophysiology for nurse practitioner students, and it really sort of exemplifies some things that I did to really try to make a course in which students had strong connections with each other, with me, the instructor, and with the content. Now, in this video, I'm going to talk about some strategies that I used to increase the student-to-student connections within the course, and then I'm going to go on to talk about the strategies that I employed to provide strong connections between students and the content that they were learning. Now, I started out in my introductory module with a ice-breaking activity. Now, in prior courses, I had I had used a blog in many courses, and I had students just introduce themselves. And in this course, I actually used a less formal, more playful ice-breaking activity in which I had students introduce themselves by listing 7 nouns that described them and explain briefly why they chose each of those nouns. And I was really impressed by how well this worked. Students, let me give you some examples. I'll just read you some examples. Students said things like they gave the noun of mom. I have a beautiful 2-year-old daughter. I think I know every Elmo episode there is and every song on Sesame Street. Another student chose to explore the noun student and said, although I'm nervous about returning to school, I'm also very excited. I truly enjoy learning and I love educating with my family, friends, patients, and my fellow students. Now, what's interesting about this is the way that they expressed themselves allowed themselves to sort of engage with each other in a very real way, and it really made them develop rich connections with each other right from the. And another element of the interaction was the blog that I had talked about before. Now, the students were asked to create a blog entry every week in which they talked about a clinical scenario with a detailed description of the signs, symptoms, and time progression of a clinical situation. And then they were asked to talk about the physiology and pathophysiology of what was going on during that scenario, and then to sort of conclude by creating or discussing an explicit connection between that underlying physiology and pathophysiology. Now, this involved obviously a strong connection with the content, but the students were also asked to go on to respond to each other's blogs. And you can see here there was an element of the grade that included a blog discussion in the comments. And each week the students were asked to respond 2 to 3 times to various blog posts. So they, provided, and this provided sort of a lively discussion. And I was very specific that their responses should be about 100 to 150 words long, and that they should be substantive. They should not just be superficial, hey, great blog. It should be more substantive, commenting on specific elements, asking, deep questions, etc. And this provided a nice, rich connection between the students. Now, these elements were, and the Twitter feed that I mentioned before in my prior video also provided a way for students to engage with each other. Now, I just want to read a reaction from a student in the evaluation. The student wrote, "The peer interaction in this course on Twitter and through the blogs was excellent. I met someone from my program through this online class, and we will continue to support each other through the rest of our program. I thought that the interaction was wonderful, and overall I thought it was a great class." Now, as far as the student to content connection, I kind of went over, you've pretty much seen all the elements of the course, so I'll just go over it in this outline format. What I did to really help students to engage with the content was, first of all, I had a very clearly outlined content outline in each learning module, so it was very easy to navigate. They knew exactly what they needed to learn in each learning module. I used my whiteboard video, and I talked to you about how I've tried various video formats in presenting content, and this whiteboard video, sort of using the Khan Academy style, worked very well. And I used short chunks. I didn't use an hour and a half lecture format. I tried to keep them under about 15 minutes. And ideally, people who have been creating these videos find that they are actually best if they're kept under 5 minutes. So if we can keep them to just one concept of about 3 minutes, that is ideal. I also used study guides that were completed in students' own words, and I'll show you an example of this as soon as I'm finished with this slide. And again, I provided specific feedback on all test questions, and I required that the students post blogs that encourage them to connect the content that they were learning to their own personal experiences. And then there was the Twitter feed that extended the discussion of the class content to sharing sort of personal epiphanies and other connections with personal experiences to the class content. So the study guides, this is an example of a study guide, and really I just had a list of open-ended questions that they needed to answer, and please excuse the Blackboard formatting here, but you can see that these are just open-ended questions that they would need to answer. Explain the blood flow through the kidney, trace the blood flow from the renal artery through the afferent artery, etc., etc. And the students were told that they needed to answer these in their own words, and for each of these questions they usually wrote about one or two significant paragraphs. And all of these answers were available either in the lectures that were provided or the readings that were provided. And I drew my questions, my test questions, directly from this study guide. So the students, there was a very clear alignment between the content that was presented, this study guide, and the test. So it really, it motivated the students to learn because they knew that they were going to be tested on these questions, and it provided them the tools that they needed to be successful. Okay, so that brings me to the end of this video tour of this class that emphasizes the connections built in this class between the student and instructor, the student and student, and student and content. Now, please let me know if you have any questions, and thank you very much for watching.